Golf Today on a Wednesday. Damon Hack alongside Eamon Lynch, Golf Week magazine. These days, folks, you keep one eye on the golf course and one eye on the old AP News Wire.
Yeah, we've heard that a week is a long time in politics. It seems like a day is a long time in golf these days, certainly as the sands seem to shift all the times in terms of the broader politics of the game. Yesterday was no different. There was a PGA Tour board meeting yesterday, and at the conclusion of that board meeting, the PGA Tour released a statement from that policy board, which includes 5 independent directors and 5 players. And it said, entering the framework agreement put an end to costly litigation. The framework agreement, of course, being the deal with the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. Management, with input from our player directors, has now begun a new phase of negotiations to determine if the Tour can reach a definitive agreement that is in the best interests of our players, fans, sponsors, partners, and the game overall. That was the focus of our productive policy board meeting this afternoon, with valuable and crucial input and perspective from the membership through our player directors. If future negotiations lead to a proposed agreement, it would need approval by the Tour's policy board, which includes player directors. In the meantime, we are all committed to the safeguards in the framework agreement that ensure the PGA Tour would lead and maintain control of this potential new commercial entity. We are confident that the Tour's mission will continue to focus on showcasing the game of golf while serving its local communities. You know what I take from that, Damon, is 2 things. There, in 2 separate paragraphs there, the word if carries an awful lot of weight. It's if the Tour can reach a definitive agreement, and if future regulations or future negotiations lead to an agreement. There's a lot of doubt in there because there really aren't any details to offer on this agreement yet. But this statement was extraordinarily deferential to the player directors. It's almost as though the board has been reminded where the real power in this organisation rests. And it rests with the players. And you'll hear a lot of players, I think, talk about, in general terms, about how they're on the right track, or at least there's a conversation going on, and we'll see where it goes. They're not all on the same page, though. Patrick Cantley is very clearly not on the same page as the rest of them. He's one of the 5 player directors on the policy board, along with Rory McIlroy, Charlie Hoffman, Peter Malnati, and Webb Simpson. And I think what this agreement is at pains to point out is that the players will have an ultimate say in this, and that the board will vote as the players wish them to vote. But of course, as of now, with no details really out there as to what it's going to look like, no valuations on any of the assets, anything like that, there's nothing really for the players to object to at this point. So it's trying to set a clean slate, because the players had bruised feelings that they were left out of the fact that these discussions were even happening. It's trying to smooth over that and try to lay the pathwork for what might come, which could be some more angst in the future as well.
Yeah, I took some of similar things away. You used the word if that we heard a lot in that statement. Proposed, potential, negotiations. Those are the words I wrote down. There's still so much yet to be determined, including the results of this Department of Justice inquiry, this congressional inquiry as well. I do wonder if you feel, though, because I feel this a little bit, much in the same way that Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour went from adversary potentially to partner. Just the passage of time, the weight of the money that the Public Investment Fund has. I just wonder if in this merger that the PGA Tour and the folks are hoping, just with the passage of time, everything becomes more palatable and we move on to other things. The early outrage that we saw just begins to wane, and the players finally say, you know what, maybe this isn't so bad. And those player directors that you're talking about that are going to be the ultimate in saying that they want to go vote this way or not, they're just beaten down by time, and they're just beaten down by the cash, and say, you know what, let's just do this so I can tee up my ball and play golf.
Yeah, the anger will dissipate. And the anger that we saw in the immediate aftermath of the announcement on June 6th was really about process, not the policy of where they're going. It was the fact that these guys were left out of the loop, which in a way is understandable, because if you tell a tour player anything, the world is going to know within 10 minutes. That's why we're in the business we are of talking to these guys. But in time, I think they will find more to object to. There are a couple of perilous potholes for the tour in this. They've already sacrificed in terms of the moral argument. That didn't win the day here. The tour has done an about-face on it. It's not part of the discussion internally on the tour. It might be for fans and others. It's not a part of a discussion that players and tour officials are going to have. But there are some key points. For instance, how do they recycle the LIV guys back into whatever the tour ecosystem is going to look like a year or 2 years from now? What are the penalties to get them there? That's going to be a very difficult thing to get past players who feel as though they might have had an opportunity to cash out, didn't, and now these guys are walking back with money. That's going to be a very difficult negotiation. But the money is a big thing here. This promise in this agreement that the Saudis are going to festoon them with cash, which is really all that matters. But as we talked about here yesterday, the problem fundamentally with this agreement is that if it doesn't come to pass, if the negotiations don't quite get there and the DOJ has a say in reshaping this, then the Tour doesn't get any of that money. And that's what the Tour is clearly in pursuit of with this agreement. They have given up all the legal leverage they had. They can't make any moral argument anymore. What they were in pursuit of was the cash investment from the Saudis. And if this agreement doesn't happen, the Tour is not going to have the cash, possibly even to sustain the business model that currently exists that players have demanded. So that's going to get a lot of players on board alone, is what's the alternative to this deal? Because if you're focused on cash, the way the terms of this deal has been written, they're just not going to paint a pretty picture for guys who are focused on cash if it doesn't happen.
So many unknowns. We don't even know if we're closer to the end than the beginning. For more from this week's PGA Tour stop and that player meeting in Detroit, we say hello to Steve Burkowski. Burko, what can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Damon. It certainly has been a hot-button topic, especially in the month of June. Everyone was looking at yesterday's meeting and had the chance to catch up with Webb Simpson, one of those in that meeting, a player director on the PGA Tour Policy Board. He shared his thoughts on what transpired in that meeting on Tuesday.
The full independents and player directors were there. And we go to all of our board meetings, but we discussed everything, anything from tournament regulations to obviously the news of June 6th. But I think it was a very long, productive, optimistic meeting. I think everyone's encouraged at the information presented, and we have a long way to go. But it seems as if we are all on the same page, and our job as player directors is to do what's in the best interest of the members. And we've heard from the members a lot the last 3 weeks, I believe it's been. And the independent directors are doing a great job with their ideas, listening to us, working with us. So it was a great meeting.
How hard is it to sort of comprehend all of it with so many moving parts? And as you said, so many people looking to you to say, what do we need to know? What's next?
It's a tremendous undertaking. There's so many ideas, so many opinions. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but on behalf of the membership, and those are needed. We want to hear from the members. So every chance I get, I'm asking members, whoever it is, whether it's on the trailer or the range, hey, give me your ideas, give me your thoughts. What can we make better? Because that is our job as player directors, is to make the tour a better place for the members. And we care deeply about our sponsorships, care deeply about fans, care deeply about all of our partners, charities. But we got to do this the right way, and I think we're off to a great start.
What do you think the next logical step is in terms of more information, time frame, knowing that this isn't going to happen overnight or next week or next month?
We don't have forever. I think working fast and working hard is to our benefit, and I think we have to we're not going to be waiting around till November to the next board meeting. We're going to be on the phone quite a bit coming up. But we would like to start just chopping away. And there's so many parts of this that we have to look at and make sure it's in the best interest of the players and the tour. But we're going to do that, and we're going to work hard.
What's your one big takeaway from yesterday's meeting?
My one big takeaway, I had a lot of takeaways, but my one big takeaway is that this is a great opportunity for us. And I think an opportunity that could position us in a really awesome place for years to come.
You listen to Webb Simpson, there is reason, at least from his perspective, to be optimistic, a lot to comprehend, and maybe almost that sense of urgency that things need to pick up in terms of pace. That's his perspective. Also on the range and the putting green here this morning, talked to a handful of players, what they heard about the meeting. Here are some of the responses. Some said, we didn't even know there was a meeting yesterday. Another said, I would love to give you an educated opinion, but in order to do that properly, I'd actually need to know exactly what's going on. So many players, they feel lost, frustrated in terms of the lack of transparency. And then another multiple winner on the PGA Tour that's been out here for 15 years said, it's easy to look back in the rearview mirror, but he said, what if they actually, and I say they, the PGA Tour, took a meeting 3 years ago to get a sense of what potentially the PIF and the Saudis and everyone was looking for in terms of creating LIV and all the parts that surround it. How much easier maybe it would have been in 2023. Also followed up that individual by saying it's somewhat hypocritical now, the hard stance that the tour took on so many different levels, that we won't do this, we'll never do that. And 12 months later, Damon and Eamon, it seems like the PGA Tour is doing exactly that.